guess some of those others, I had a couple others that signed up. I guess they're not getting here or have had other things come up. So let me just kind of officially begin us and say thank you for being here. And in this coaches conversation, this is one of those times where there's not an agenda. There is, I'm not bringing a topic to the table to say, let's go over a competency, let's work on a particular piece. I'm going to kind of leave it up to where we want to go with this conversation, because we're all involved in coaching. And so with that, we're running into both great opportunities and great challenges. And so what I wanted to encourage us to do in this time is let us be a little open-ended in terms of just responding to questions and things that you see, things you wonder about. I may throw in some things as well, just kind of, for example, have y'all seen this? Have y'all seen this program? It's a computer program that you can use with you. Now, this works more in groups than it does with an individual coaching client. So if you were doing something virtually, have y'all seen Menti.com?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. Because what it is, and that's what I wanted you to see, like, for example, if I had bunches of people here and I wanted to get responses all showing up, then what you do is you can put up a question like that. I guess y'all can see this slide. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
And then up at the top where it says that you ask the people who are a part of it to go to menti.com and to put that code in. And then what they can do is they can then answer it and the answers show up on the screen. All right. So if you have your phone or you can get to the other parts of your computer, let's just try that. I'm even going to do it myself with my phone. And then you can put in whatever words you want to when you think of our network. The biggest challenge of this is having to take the time to fill in the code. Now, you can sometimes send this to people beforehand to let them know this is coming, or at least the information to be ready for the conversation to occur. Let's see, I could enter up to 3 words here. If I can figure it out. Y'all figure it out?
Yep.
Supposed to be very easy.
No, they're my words.
Yeah, they came up. I can't get mine to show me the word. I guess it's telling me that I already put in the words, even though I didn't put in anything.
Of course, I didn't read the question, but
yeah, that's fine. I mean, it was just for purposes.
You go to voting?
Huh?
Do you go to voting?
I'm trying to see where on. Oh, here it is. Go if the image shows up first, and if you'll scroll down on your phone.
Oh, gotcha.
You could put in the words like I would put in, just for the sake of it, the neat thing is you can do this in the context of things, and as people put in words, the words will show up on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Feels like a word clock.
Yeah, it's this one I set up as a word clock, and you can set it up in some other ways. You can put a poll in here. You can do other kinds of things like that. The way you get to it is you go to the way you can set up an account for it is you go to Mentimeter, Mentimeter is .com, and you can set up a free account and other kinds of things like that to use. Now, Herbert, I wondered, now you'd have to really get creative with this, but I wondered sometimes if you could even use this in a sermon.
I'm thinking that,
I mean, if you have the screen available, like most places I preach, there's still no screen available. But if you had the capabilities of connecting with the way, that would be one way, especially with younger adults, you know, I would see with young adults that this would be an excellent way of getting them sometimes even involved in a teaching session, a preaching opportunity, or other kinds of things like that. So,
And particularly since we're in this online environment, you know.
oh gosh, yeah. So anyway, I wanted you to be aware of that. And some of you already were, but I didn't know if you knew about how you got to it to set it up for your own kind of things.
Now I
And
know.
Mentimeter, MENTIMETER. In fact, let's see if I can if I can figure out a way to make it show up on here, and I think I can. This is the Mentimeter is the name of the organization. So, or the name of the group that does it. As you can see here, you can create your own presentations. Notice there's a pricing model here. Can y'all see this?
Yes.
You know, where there's a free thing you can do up to, for the free one, you do have an unlimited audience, unlimited number of presentations. The only restrictions that you get is you can only do 2 questions, 2 question slides and up to 5 quiz slides. So it limits you in terms of what you can do. Most of the time in things that I have done, I have not found a need for the larger basic kind of thing. And of course, they're always going to promote their pro plan and that type of thing. But you can compare the features as to what's available and other kinds of things like that. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, because if you're ever coaching a group or doing a presentation or other kinds of things like that, that can be a helpful piece to kind of work on and that kind of thing.
Great. I love it.
Have you seen also the new feature in what are we in? Zoom, that kind of shows how you can use whiteboards even more than you could use before. That's another nice feature that they have added.
Yes.
You know, that can create some collaboration when you're in the Zoom itself, rather than having to use outside programs like I was using a program called Miro, MIRO, and I like it. It just gets complicated sometimes when you're trying to get other people to collaborate with you. And these whiteboards give you that opportunity. But anyway, that's what I bring to the table today, is just some of that kind of information. So let's just have conversation. What are some of the things going on in your own mind about coaching that we can talk about and dialogue about in conversation today? I've got a drink close by today because my throat's a little raw, so y'all excuse me for drinking while we're talking. Anybody got one?
I guess one of the challenges I sometimes wrestle with is making sure I'm staying on the person being coached, their agenda, as opposed to avoiding leading questions to an outcome that I think might be necessary.
Yeah, and when you get really good at that, Herbert, write a book about that so that you can help everybody else avoid that same. And I think that's a challenge of coaching per se, and also a challenge when you have I guess I would almost say our brains have been shaped around the idea of consulting or presenting people with information that we have, whether it's in a teaching mode, a preaching mode, any of those kinds of things. There's a natural part of us that wants to help, and in our helping, we want to be able to provide some answers. Is that fair, Veronica, Lorraine? I mean, I think that's part of what it is. And I just, the only thing I could say about it, and I'd love to hear the rest of it, but the only thing I can say about it is to catch myself and to even sometimes just to apologize to my client who's never unhappy for me to do that, you know.
Right.
You know, because some of the discussion sometimes is, well, you know, that's not being fair to the client. Well, I've yet to have clients say, oh, no, don't do that, you know, or that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it doesn't really help them claim their own ownership of whatever is going on, you know.
Mhm.
That's the key thing. It's part of it. Have you found anything, Herbert, that helps you?
Well, the awareness is helpful because as I'm looking for questions, as I'm listening to what they're saying, and going through that self-discovery process, you know, I may see some things, but I'm at least aware of it, and which I've gotten better at pausing, you know, because I really want to jump right in there and answer another question, but I paused and I said, well, let me try to word this, you know, I kind of talk myself through some things. So, but awareness is helpful.
Awareness is a key for just about everything, isn't it? Is when we become aware that we're doing something.
Yes.
That gives us the opportunity to stop it. I love the words you use there. Sometimes what I've got to do is just pause
Mhm.
and reflect.
Mhm.
And it's uncomfortable for me to pause and reflect.
Yeah.
And it just gets silent sometimes. But it's sometimes in the silence and the pause that I can catch myself, and the other person can find something valuable even in what they have said.
Mhm.
A lot of times people don't even listen to themselves,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
and that pause gives them a chance to say, now, what did I just say? You know, or that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I have also gotten to the point sometimes before I ask a question, part of my pause is also to think about my observation. What am I observing about what's going on with this person?
Mhm.
And sometimes the observation helps me stop and think from their perspective rather than from mine.
Mhm.
You know, what's going on in them? You know, what are you feeling right now? You know, what does this whole question bring up about? And I love that kind of thing. So what about this question creates a real challenge for you, or
Mhm.
is really important to you, you know, and those kind of things,
Mhm.
that makes them stop and have to reflect on it rather than sometimes even getting quickly to the answer. I do
Mhm.
think, and we were talking about this the other day, Herbert, when you and Jim were coaching together in our mentor group coaching kind of thing. One of the biggest challenge sometimes is how do you move change from just being a transaction
Mhm.
to being something that really makes me think and help it be transformational for me,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, because what we learn to do, especially in the early part of coaching, is create the conversation as a very positive transaction for the basis of the other person.
Mhm.
How am I going to help you get from here to there? You know, and that kind of thing. But then when you also really kind of help them do some more reflecting about what's going on in me, you know, what's the reason this is so important to me at this particular point, you know, and that kind of thing. That's when you're getting to a deeper level of, we've never been comfortable with it, but in 503, I think it is, one of the models we use is what's called the just left me. It's happening more and more. Y'all don't tell anybody. I think I'm getting older.
No, it's not happening.
I'm trying to hide it, but it every once in a while it just shows up right in the middle of a conversation. The kind of a transformational model that we talk about, where there's 3 different levels, and there's a name for it, and for some reason it won't come to me right now. Robert Hargrove is the one who wrote about it, where he talks about, you know, a first level of change is kind of just I just need to change it's kind of like technical kind of changes like Heifetz and Todd Bolsinger and some other kind of things. Let's just make a technical change here.
Mhm.
But a second level of change is, this is not working. What's happened? So you have to go to a deeper level. And the deeper level, that second level of change, is more about getting to some paradigm shift a little bit, where you're having to look at things differently. But the third level is even deeper, where you have to change your whole sense of what is the belief I'm holding here that I've got to let go of, that's even affecting how I develop a frame for it, and therefore affecting my actions or that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That's the deeper level of change that is so difficult for people. I don't care who you are. It's the kind that Jesus talks about, that we talk about, but it ain't easy to kind of get there,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And I think most of our coaching in the early level of coaching tries to stay with that first level of shifting. Let's just change something that we do. I want to change the way we do our procedures and policies. And maybe that'll help us be better in what we do. And it might be a technical change that's very needed. I want to change how I set up my morning schedule. So that, how many times have you heard somebody say, I want to change my diet? Right. And so we change some things about it, but there's not this deeper level of change of what I really crave, or why is food so important to me, or the kind of food that I eat, or that's a whole nother level of change. That's why dieting doesn't work as well as a lot of people want it to.
Right.
Is because we want the technical changes, maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit this, but we don't look at our whole aspect of things. So, all right, if the grandchild is awake, go take care of the grandchild.
Be right back.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. So that I always remember that transformational cycle that kind of deals with those different levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3. And if we can ever get to level 3, you've got very deep change going on in our own lives as well as other people's lives, and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So good luck with that one. And like I said, when you figure out the magic formula,
Uh-huh.
I want you to write a blog or something about it so we can put it out there for everybody to see and hear,
Yes. Yeah, I'm just grateful for the awareness,
Yeah.
that when I feel it coming on, it's like, wait, let me pause, let me kind of pull back.
I think you're right. I think
pausing is challenging. That silence is so hard, though.
well, you almost feel like maybe I should say what I almost feel like sometimes when I'm silent is that I'm cheating somebody.
Yes.
If we're going to invest 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, even a little bit longer in a conversation, let's make use of every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we think every minute of it means is somebody needs to be talking.
Right.
And we don't think of the value of silence or other kinds of reflections and other things like that could be a helpful piece to us and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I still struggle a little bit, even Herbert. I mean, it's different, but I still struggle a little bit with even still forming my question before they finish their what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have it in my mind as I'm listening. I'm like, oh, I know what the problem is. I know the next question I'm going to ask and that kind of thing. And which means that I'm at level 1 listening. I'm not at that level 2 and level 3 listening that I really need to get at to really kind of help them the most.
Mm-hmm.
I think that becomes especially difficult for me when it's something that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like when someone's telling me a story and I'm like, oh yeah, been there, done that,
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm just like, can't wait to jump in and solve
know,
your problem.
yeah. Yeah, that still seems to even be a challenge of expectation of the client as well. And here's what I mean by that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, "Well, no, that person can't coach me because they've not been through what I've been through." And I'm going, "Wait a minute. You're not asking for a mentor here.
Mhm.
You're asking for someone who is going to be able to help you think yourself." But I'm telling you that in our own mindsets, a lot of times there's still this feeling that we have to have somebody who has been through. Hey, CJ, good to see your smiling face. So I know she's working, so that's why I'm not expecting a response. Right, CJ? Just thumbs up if you're still working. Yeah. That's the one bad thing of having these things at 9 o'clock in the morning for CJ. It's hard for her to participate since she's working.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Well, and I completely thought it was at 10. And it's at 9. So here I
Yeah.
am late. Sorry.
hey, we're just glad you're here. We're glad you're late or whatever else, you know.
All right. Well, pay no attention to me. I'll just start listening.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Mhm.
So I mean, I just think that's still a challenge for me anyway, is
Mhm.
forming the question in my mind before they even finish with what's going on.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Have y'all found anything to help you with that?
For me, I think one of the sessions we had, this writing down the keywords has been helpful.
Yeah.
Because often when I'm listening, I'll hear several things that I want to follow up on, but I have to finish listening first and then say, okay, now of the several things that I heard, which one do I need to follow up on? And so just writing down a keyword has been really, really helpful. And not so much note taking, but just a word. And that's been tremendously helpful.
Good. And I know, one of the classes that we have on the language of coaching talks about the importance of yellow flag words,
Yes.
and the importance of listening for those words and then, putting them down. And different people have different yellow flag words, but there are yellow flag words that you can that could catch your attention.
Mhm.
One of those yellow flag words for me is probably.
Mhm.
When somebody says, I'm probably going to do that, it makes me want to stop and say, all right, what's probably mean?
Mhm.
How committed are you to doing this, or other kinds of things like that? I can't do this.
Mhm.
Can't is a great yellow flag word, and on and on and on it goes.
Mhm.
I have my yellow flag words. You have your yellow flag words. All God's children have their own yellow flag. But listening, I think that is a good thing, Herbert, though, of writing them down and then responding to them can be an excellent way to,
Mhm.
when we let go of the need of taking notes for the purpose of having to remember everything,
Yeah.
but take notes more for the purpose of what I'm helping me really hear what the person is saying,
Mhm.
the better off we are,
Yes.
in terms of things. So
Yeah.
whatever that means for us and however we do it becomes important. I think I like that idea of just listening and write a word or two that you hear that catches your attention, or
Mhm.
pay attention to something that's going on with them as they're talking, either the speed or the tone or the pace, that's speed. Or if you're with them, watch different things with their body language, or observing some different kinds of things that could be taking place can be a helpful part of that as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even wrestling with those, every now and again, I want to ask why. And I was like, no, I can't, I got to get away from that why question. I'm pretty good with the open-ended question. I mean, the yes, no answers, staying away from those, but that why, every now and again, I want to come up with a why. It's like, no, not here. Not now.
Yeah. And the real thing about why is to check this is kind of one of those hard things to really even kind of describe. What we're trying to encourage you to do in the early stages of learning is avoiding the why questions, or because they can create judgment about them. But you know, there are ways to ask why questions and for it not to be judgmental. You know, and the key thing there is because I think the key thing you have to learn the more time you spend with coaching is a why question. In other words, that really gets to the purpose of something rather than the judgment of something can be a really good question.
Yes.
It's just how you ask it and what you, with the flavor of it, that becomes important. So even as the more time you spend in coaching, adding in a why question can be something that's helpful. Just listen to it carefully, even in your own head, as to does it imply judgment or does it imply helping that person move forward? That's the thing that you have to get into. I don't, have any of y'all participated at all in any of these WBEX? WBEX is the world's best executive coaches summit that's going on.
Not this season.
Yeah, I was listening to one the other day, and one of the comments that came up was the coach that was doing a demonstration asked several times closed-end questions. You know, do you, have you? And she's a master certified coach, and so the question came up in the conversation afterwards. Now, such a big issue is made to us about only asking open-ended questions, and then she made the comment to those who were a part of it. She said, "Well," she said, "that is misunderstood." And I thought, just like an MCC kind of thing, but what she said is really what you're trying to is the same kind of thing with the why. You're trying to get people out of the habit of asking closed-end questions. But her comment was that there are times that a good closed-end question can help a person move forward. So it's not that you do away with all closed-end questions. It's just you learn how to ask them at the right time and in the right way.
Strategically.
And that strategically and that kind of thing. And because we got into we being the people who were part of the discussion, got into a whole conversation about that, saying, yeah, I think they make too big of a deal out of that, they being ICF and that kind of thing. And I just made the comment. I said, no, I said, I don't think they're making too big of a deal out of it. I said, I think it's just like a why question. They're trying to get us out of the habit of asking them all the time. Because what you need to think about is does the closed-end question stop the conversation? Y'all have heard me say that I really do think I've never found anybody who's been hurt by a closed-end question. It's never hurt a person.
Right.
It may not help them think beyond where they are at that particular moment, but we ought to do as much as we can to create open discovery rather than just closed-in questions for the sake of, because I hear that a lot from people who are first starting coaching. I was doing it. Is a lot of times we just ask those kind of questions. Well, do you think? Do you think that this idea might work better than another idea? Well, what are you doing in that? You're presenting your own idea in that, but the other is you're just putting the person in a box by kind of making them fit into a particular kind of thing. So you just have to watch that whole idea of what happens with a closing question and what's the purpose of it, and some of those kinds of things. So I've tried to be in some of my conversations a little bit more lenient about that, but trying to get a point across. Trying to get across the point that what was the purpose of that question? And did it really help the person move their thinking forward, or did it just kind of stop the conversation and that kind of thing? So that's a way
and that will often depend on the client and how they client responds to questions. At times when I've used the closed-end question, they'll answer it and then provide the additional information.
Yeah.
And but it's client-based. Other times, I can't use it because I recognize that it will stop the conversation. So.
And some of that is knowing your client.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a client like me who is an external processor and will think out loud, a closed-end question is not going to stop me from thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have someone who's more of an internal thinker and one that's more introverted in their nature, a closing question can stop things real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing who your client is makes a big difference as how you can use those kind of questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the key point in coaching is being flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's why I keep saying that even though we present a lot of these kind of ideas in the classes, to help people with the competencies, there is an aspect that the key point about coaching is it's an art as much as a science.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just got to be sensitive to the fact of what's happening with the client and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any best practices for normal termination? Well, that termination word just scares the living daylights out of me, Lorraine. So I'm assuming what you mean by that is to end a relationship. What are some of the...
I was thinking about the program that we're coaching in where they have 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And it feels like once before you really get into the coaching, it's ended.
Yeah. Listen, those with 3 are hard. I mean, and that's what we do in a lot of the especially with the uptickers and some of those kind of things. And what I have just learned to do is almost just with that third one, the only normalcy that I would say is I acknowledge to them we are at the end of our formal agreement at this point, and we go back and talk about what I go back and talk about. So what have you gained from this time with our time together? What are you taking away from not just this session, but from our whole, what have you learned about yourself? So I think I'm doing a little evaluation for just a short time in terms of what they have gained from it. Now, the challenge is in our setting with some of these is it's not really truly necessarily a termination, because you have the opportunity to do more if you'd like to.
Yeah.
And so that brings it that's where the complication of it comes. I had one client, I had a client just the other day that I was working with that we were at the third, and we were talking about whether he would continue or not. And we were doing some evaluating, and I said, listen, I would love to continue the conversation with you. And, the process will allow us that opportunity if you would like. But I said, really, that's up to you and what you want to do with it. And his comment was, well, I'm still thinking about what I want to do, with it and that kind of thing. And so as we left, his action was to make a final decision about it and to let the persons in the program know as to what he was going to do. And the trouble I have with those is you don't know whether you're really ending or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've done pretty much, just ask those evaluative questions.
Yeah. Well, and I try to do as much too with those evaluative questions for it to be about them that it is as much about me. I may go back to them later and say, all right, let's talk about the coaching I did and what was helpful and what was not helpful. But what I'm doing with it, when I'm terminating a conversation, or terminating may not be closing, bringing closure to the relationship, I'm trying to do as much as I can to go back and help them revisit what they've learned about themselves. what's going to be different about who you are now and what you're going to, and we even talk about, you know, when you started this, let's go back and remember, what was your goal for what you wanted to accomplish in this? Now, there are a lot of them that don't have specific goals. A lot of them they know they're supposed to do this. Their goal is to complete this, you know? And so I said, hey, that's a goal. You have accomplished that. You have gotten through this. But let's also think about, what have you learned about the value of this kind of relationship for you, and some other kinds of things like that. So I'm trying to make it as much about them as I am just about me as the coach, you know, and that kind of thing. Even also the idea of trying to help them think about, how are you going to have these conversations in the future? You know, who in your life can help you be responsible for the kinds of choices that you need to make, and following through with those choices, and some other kinds of things like that. So I think that's the kinds of things you can explore as you finish up. And then if you want to do some evaluation of your own coaching, my personal opinion is, could we spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes together on another phone call, just talking about what my value has been, what I could have done more effectively, other kinds of things like that, you know. I mean, what do y'all think? I mean, I'm not trying to act, I guess I am acting like an expert when I'm not really. I'm more a pert on this one than I am an expert, so. Herbert, how have you finished up? I mean, you've done several of these kind of uptick catalyst and uptick catalyst and other things, I know, for relationships.
Yeah, when we get to that third one, I always ask them, okay, you know, we're coming to the, this is our third one, and you know, this is the opportunity you have to make a decision. You know, has this been helpful? You know, do you want to continue? You know, I ask those types of questions, and they're able to articulate, you know, the benefits and why they want to continue, you know, in the relationship. And I said, okay, that option's available to you. And then, because I typically try to assign some homework at every session, it helps both of us to stay, you know, accountable to one another. And that's how I begin my sessions with them. But yeah, that's typically what I've done. Just, you know, what do you want to do? Has this been helpful?
Yeah, good.
And then we press on from there.
Yeah. What about when it's completely over? When you know, when you get, let's say we get to the 6 weeks and it's over.
Right.
Or not 6 weeks, 6 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to kind of wrap things up then?
Again, we go back and kind of revisit what the goal. One of the notes that I do take is at the very beginning, you know, what their overall goal is. And then I ask the question, have we met that goal? You know, from your estimation, in what ways have we met that goal? And you know, I did some other closing conversations or comments. And then one of the things I typically do, I said, you know, once we start this relationship, I said, you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
You know, so if you ever need to call on me in the future,
right,
you have my contact information. If anything I can be helpful to you, you know, don't hesitate. You know, so I try to always leave the door open for future conversations. And some of them I've connected with on social media. Most of them have all my contact information. And you know, around holidays, I'll kind of check in, like, how are you doing? You know, just some type of ongoing communication.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I think that's great in that kind of. Veronica, do you have any particular ways you kind of have found that have been most helpful to end?
Yeah, like, well, I'm having a different experience this time as far as like dealing with the uptick people. In the past, I've kind of done the same thing like that Herbert has done towards the end of the 6 weeks, to say the same, kind of similar, like, I'm happy to continue to have conversations with you and things like that. And I've actually stayed in touch with a few of the people from previous cohorts.
Good. Yeah.
This cohort is a little different for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Like, so one of them, we've only had one session. And they keep saying, oh yeah, I need to,
Yeah.
get
I
back
had
to
that
it.
too.
And then, okay.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
mean, you're not alone. One of the
Yeah.
challenges, if any of you ever have the chance to coach somebody in a program where the program kind of expects it, the real challenge is the coachees are not sure they want it.
right.
So the motivation for coaching is different in this kind of setting than what you might have if somebody just wants to connect. It's a different thing when somebody wants to connect with you for coaching and when when somebody's assigned to you for coaching. At least that's my take on that, and that's what you're finding. And sometimes you'll have great relationships with some just want to get it over. Some don't really want to do it, even if they are supposed to do it, or that kind of thing. You just got all kind of different responses and that kind of thing.
What do you do with like this one? I have another one that she did complete. They did complete the three. And then so at the third one, I was like, this is your third one. Let me know if you'd like to continue. And they're like, oh, do I have to let you know now? So, well, no, you don't have to let me know now, but as soon as possible, so I can so I can know, but also so that the organization could know. And then they were like, okay, yeah, I'll get back. And I said, I made it easy. I was like, it doesn't have to be anything long and drawn out. Because
Yeah.
it was almost like this, I could tell based on this person's personality, it's almost like, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings if I say no,
Yeah.
I don't want to continue with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and I said things like, it's not going to hurt my feelings, and doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing. You can just say, yes, I would like to continue. Thanks, but no, I don't want to continue. And then, but I still haven't gotten that. So I'm just wondering, should I reach out and ask again? Or should
Well, one of the things that's supposed to happen is they're supposed to tell their leaders, whatever, I can't remember the names for the leaders for the cohort. The cohort leader is supposed to find out for them whether they're going to continue their coaching or not. Now, I didn't find that out until later. Sometimes whenever you got three parties involved, communication can get sometimes a little, everybody thinks they understand what's going on, but that doesn't always happen. You know how that is. Two-way communication is hard enough. You add a third party in there, then it really gets to be complicated. But they're supposed to let their cohort leader know whether they're going to continue the coaching or not. Now, if they're going to do that, they got to let us know, though. I mean, that's the thing I keep saying is they can tell you that all the time, but they've got to set up coaching sessions with us. And so it's really key that we have an agreement that we're going to continue this on. What I would encourage you to do, Veronica, personally, is to contact them again and say, hey, I know you've been thinking about this. And it's almost to what I mean, this is just me. This is my personality. I'm almost saying to them, trying to give them an out because I think they're looking for it. I almost say to them, my assumption is that you do not want to continue the coaching. If I am incorrect, then please let me know and we'll schedule the next session, and that kind of thing. And I could go the other way and say, hey, I know it's time for us to schedule another session. If you're going to continue, here's my calendar. Let's set it up. I could do it that way, but what I have found is at least with the Uptick Catalyst group and the Uptick group, because I have the same thing happening with the Uptick, what's called Uptick Core, that it's the same kind of thing, and I really do believe part of it is the investment has a lot to do with I'm not paying anything for this. It's nice, but I'm not sure I would do it if I were if I were not a part of this program. So the investment in it is not quite the same. You know, we keep trying to say to them even, I haven't done the introduction in the last couple of years, but we keep trying to say to them, look, think of what you're doing is every time you're having a session, you're sitting down and you're writing a check for $150, you know, for the investment in this session. I kept saying, man, I wish I could get $150 for a coaching session, but that's not the point. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where I've always felt for coaching, you really have to have ownership that I'm going to get something out of this. If you're just going through it because somebody else has told me I need to do it, it just doesn't have the same ring, you know, or that kind of thing. So I don't know. What are you others of you suggest about how should she approach that?
You know, what's weird about that, one of the clients I had prior to the session actually went on social media, were kind of watching my sermons and everything. So when we had the meeting, they said, oh, I was just checking out. That was so weird for me. It caught me off guard because it's like, okay, what did I do? And they were talking about how the sermon was real helpful and instructive, and it kind of led into where they were going. But I did have one in the previous cohort that never did respond. I did follow up. I said, you know, we missed the session. You know, if you want to finalize that session, just let me know. And I just basically left it up to them, you know, open-ended. I'm available if you need me. You have the contact information. And
I had one to sign up. I mean, it was assigned, signed up for a session.
Yeah.
Did not show up. And then I kept trying to contact and say, hey, you know, we need to get this scheduled and that kind of thing. But I just never could get, you know, and when they don't provide you even the opportunity to do it, what do? You know, or that kind of thing. So, but I think if it was the idea of whether to carry on or not, I've got one that way, Aronica, right now. And when we left it, he was still making a decision about it. So what I have chosen to do is go back to him and say, I have not heard from you. I am assuming that means that you have told your cohort leader that we are not going to continue the coaching. And then I usually put a couple of questions on there, then asking, since we are not, let me ask you a couple of questions. And it's about what was most helpful to you in this, some other kinds of things like that, just to kind of bring closure to it and that kind of thing. So it gives me an opportunity. It gives me an opportunity to at least express, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope this is that you have used this as this is a hard thing for me, but I really don't make the coaching about how I've done. I really make the coaching about what have you gained from this? Because really, if you think about it, coaching is as much about what they've invested and what they've been willing to do as it is about what you and I have done. And that kind of thing. But I usually go back to them and say, what have you gained from this process? And if you were coached again, what would you do differently, or something of that nature? And then I do usually throw a question like, what could I have done more effectively as a coach to have encouraged your growth, or something of that nature, you know? So
it keeps the focus on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why one of the big things I say about, and I think this is one of the challenges of coaching for a lot of people. And Herbert, I don't mean this as any slight, so please, but I'm there as well. But I think one of the challenges for pastors sometimes is letting go of the need of knowing what they think about you, you know, or what they think about the kind of job you have done and that kind of thing. The humility that's needed in coaching is not an easy thing to to live with sometimes,
Mhm.
I guess is the best way to put it, and that kind of thing. So,
It almost provides both relief and stress because as we talked about earlier, we don't have to know
yeah,
about what they're going through to be able to coach them.
yeah,
Even though there's that expectation or personal desire, because we want to be able to contribute some things in very specific ways. But I'm relieved at times where I really don't have to know anything about this,
yeah,
even though I desire to.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, I hope I will always have the desire to want to know more
Mhm.
and want to continue to learn about things. But what I'm trying to do is put that more and more into learning how to move people forward rather than trying to exert some expertise over the process or some other kinds of things like that. You know,
Mhm.
it's a challenge because there is a lot of senses that one of the challenges of being a coach is having the to set up a coaching business, excuse me,
Mhm.
is to have the entrepreneurial skills to really kind of push yourself forward. Well, there's not a lot of humility in that sometimes, you know,
Mhm.
but yet one of the things that you're supposed to show as a coach is a lot of humility. So it brings these clashes about in terms of some of those kind of things that there's the marketing of yourself and what you do that you've got to do to be able to develop a coaching business.
Mhm.
And, you know how all that is. I mean, it's just, there's challenges in that, in some of those kind of things. So,
Absolutely. Mhm.
so we continue to help each other. And I do think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do not coach by themselves. They coach as a part of partnerships or other kinds of things like that, because that way the whole partnership can put their energies into marketing and other kinds of things like that rather than just the individual. But there's some give and take and even all those kind of things that have to occur.
Mhm.
Well, I got right at the time. God, I can't believe it's already 10 o'clock, but it is. So even with just 2 or 3 questions, we still had a lot of things to really kind of think about and deal with and that kind of thing. Thank you for coming and being a part of the conversation. I hope you got something out of this
Absolutely.
that will help you as you're thinking about coaching. We will not meet in July. We'll just take the month off and just enjoy the heat and all the other kind of things that are showing up. And then I'm still debating about August. I have it on the schedule for us to gather in August, but I'm trying to decide whether August or September will be the best time to start the new year process with what we do with just these conversations and that kind of thing. The other piece that we'll work on a little bit, and I may even be asking the group for some information, is just what are the kinds of things that would be helpful for us to talk about at each of these sessions to kind of have a lead into the conversations and that kind of thing. So we'll work on that, see where we go from there. Okay.
All right. Mhm.
Thank you for investing your time. I hope, if you use Menti at all, that Mentimeter and I'd love to hear how you've used it and whether it's worked or not. I'm thinking about trying to add that to some of the stuff I do in some of the coach training and that kind of thing. So,
But you've
we'll
given
see.
me some ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, good.
Thank you.
Well, take care. We'll talk later.
Thank you. Doc.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
See you, CJ.
Bye.